quality, and people call it clean water. Hey, you have good water. Do you like your water? Raise your hand. If you think your city water, well water, water that you drink is good. We all think that. I love my water here in town. Here at Ferncliff, you are drinking Ferncliff well water because since Ferncliff has been on site, City Water hadn't made it this far, but it made it this far this year and they'll connect at the end of the year. So we'll be on City Water. It's really nice. We've had good quality well water. Being on the board of a camp, you really kind of have some concerns about well water availability because one pump goes out and no kids get to come to camp. So the availability of city water is going to be a good thing. It's going to help our insurance rates too because we will have firefighting capability. But we don't have to go to town. We don't have to go to the well at the city center and gather water and haul water to our own house for our daily living. And I like to ask people, so what I'm going to talk about today is the quantity of water, and some people use the word availability. Is it available in your community? And then how's the quality? Is it contaminated by something? Is it good water, or is it available to you and you have some doubts about it? But let's talk first about quantity. Is the use, the per capita use, the individual per capita use of water increasing or decreasing in your lifetime? Maybe let's just say in the last 30 years. Some of you are of an age that you need to limit it. 30 years, increasing or decreasing? All those think it's increasing. Those that say decreasing. Rick heard my talk at church already. He heard the answer. Water per capita usage in the United States is decreasing in my lifetime. I'm 63 years old and it is decreasing. These are the per capita uses of water as reported, and I believe this science to the EPA. 82 gallons, I use less than that, per day at home, down from about 100 gallons when I was in high school. Why is that? See these big uses, the red toilet usage at home? These are your facts for the day.
It didn't have lawn hair.
No, this is in-home. Doesn't count your yard. And I'm going to get to the yard. But this is just in the home per day. So I live in a house built in 1972. I have 3 toilets. My toilets use a lot of water because I run to failure. Y'all know those terms? Who's some of my engineers? Who are my science people? You run to failure. You don't replace it when it's old. You just wait for it to fail and then you replace it. This is the church roof model. Those of you on a building committee, asset committee, you wait till the roof is dripping on everybody and then you replace the roof. No proactive, no preventative. So at my house, I am still flushing a toilet at 7 gallons of flush. But when my toilets finally die, and I must replace them, I will go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get a new toilet, and we will install it because my husband and I are handy. And we will have put in a toilet that will use probably 3 gallons or less every time I flush. Well, I flush at least the average 7 times a day, maybe more. And so I will save 14,000 gallons, me, per day at my house in a year, just by replacing my toilet. So if you don't learn anything else, the use per capita of water has gone down because of water efficiency standards that came into play starting in 1982 and moving along to where you go to Home Depot for your shower heads and your faucets. Those are low flow fixtures. They're using less water. Your toilets are using half as much water as they did. And your dishwasher and your washing machines, probably you are buying, because you are people that care, a WaterSense labeled appliance that is designed to use less water. All of those things have happened, and they are standards. Some started out voluntary, and then they were put into regulations. Now, if there is a concern for the future is they're going to roll those back, and WaterSense labeled appliances will be whatever the market will bear, because that's the Trump view. So there's my political statement for the day. So how do you use water in Arkansas? And this is available. There is a state water plan for every state, and this is reported. So this is the Arkansas water plan, giving you a base period, showing you we use 80% of the water withdrawal, the water taken either from a well or surface water in Arkansas goes to agriculture. This is to grow corn, soybeans, cotton. Those of you that drove in from the east, from the Delta, you know, we're irrigating every field out there right now. 8% for potable drinking water residential consumption, 8% in Arkansas. So these are available for every state. So Virginia, not as much irrigation. 80% is going to cooling towers for electrical production. This is nuclear, coal-fired, gas-fired, whatever way your utility has a cooling tower associated with it. So this is also going to come into play when you start cooling down data centers, and we're going to talk about that. So we have water, thankfully, most of us every day when we turn our taps on. It comes out, it's there for us. It's supplied in a manner that we are very mostly satisfied with. We grumble a little bit. And really, the drinking water part of your utility bill is probably pretty affordable. So my drinking water bill, I'm going to shut this as we get some time. What I call the water bill is really drinking water, wastewater, because I want my waste taken off site. Please, when I flush that toilet, let it go somewhere else. And I have garbage and recycling on my bill. But the drinking water part, the water at my tap available to me in Central Arkansas for 10 CCF usage, $31. I pay about $1 a day on my bill. How many of you pay a little bit more than that? How many of you pay twice that much for just the drinking water part of your bill? Yeah, you get out west, it's very expensive. So here's my water bill, you can see. And I even put it up here because I believe in factual-based presentations. And I have, this is for the month of April, where I don't water my yard. As you can see, here is, I have two different meters. I have a water meter, does the house, and I have irrigation, which is my lawn sprinkler. I'm not growing some acre garden or anything. This is just Linda's front yard. And you can see in the summer, my bill is $150 more a month because I water my front yard. And just enough. I don't water the street. Please, y'all, set your sprinklers to water the yard and not the street. But I have two items on my water bill that I hope many of your water utilities are getting to. I have a watershed protection fee. How many of y'all have that somewhere? Maybe called something different? Yes. So what that does, the water supply for Central Arkansas are two big reservoirs. They're man-made reservoirs that are, you know, west of town. They were put in the 30s and 50s. They're huge lakes. You like to fish on them. And the area around them, when they were built, we were way out of town, 35 miles out of Little Rock. But now, since the city has grown this way towards Ferncliff, towards the west, people want to live on the lake. Most of the lake is surrounded by the U.S. Forest Service, so thank you for your talk about public lands. I appreciate that so much. We don't want to see any elimination of the U.S. forested lands around a water reservoir because it protects it from pollution, from runoff, from all the things that come when you drive a car down the street and you have oily streets after a rain and it runs off through the watershed to the river, to the water reservoir. the trees really filter out so much of that pollution. But the watershed protection fee allows the water department to buy farmland as it comes open around water. So they're buying land with that fee, which I like. Yeah, I'll do that, $1.80 a month. And then I have a new infrastructure fee because the lines from city water reservoir 35 miles out of town were built in the 50s. So I've got very old lines coming into town that tend to break. I want those lines to be fixed. Don't like any leaks, don't like any breaks, need the water treatment plant to be upgraded. And so for the next 10 years, I have $1.85 a month for infrastructure. I hope that your city is doing something like this with your water, because if they're not, that is a concern for the future of water, is that the water's sitting either at a well or at a lake and it can't get to town, or so much of it is lost as it comes in that you're wasting your water. I'm not going to talk a lot about this, except who's from Florida? Somebody in here. Yes. You have your own system separate from the rest of the United States about how you deal with who owns water, which is probably a good thing because you have so much coastline and brackish water and Everglades. But the rest of us, either in the green states, mostly east of the Mississippi, you have riparian water rights. If you live by the water, you own your water, right? It's my water. I can pull out of that stream, that's fine. You get further west and you either have a hybrid or something called prior appropriation, which is a permitting process. You have water rights. It says you can pull this many acre feet per year. It's yours. Buddy, if you want to sell it, trade it, do what you want, you've got this much. That's yours. And very different in a view of how much water. So if I'm sitting in Texas, in Dallas, and I say, gosh, we're really thinking about the future of water, because your water departments do a 50-year look ahead. Most of them have on file the next 25 years with your state. So you can go see, do we need to build another water plant? Do we need another water source? Those are filed because they want you to be looking ahead, because it takes so long to accumulate the money for a bond issue, to pay it off, to do the engineering design, to get it there, that you're looking ahead. If I'm in Little Rock, I feel really good about water through 2100. Really good. But if I'm in Texas and I say, well, gosh, Arkansas gets 52 inches of rain, I'd love to have some, I'll buy some water and send it across state lines. Can they do that? You don't answer that. Everybody else. Can they do that? No? Yes? In the era of Trump, probably yes. Up until now, just in the last few years in Arkansas, there's been a new state law that says you can't send it across state lines without state permission. Before that, yes, if I was in Texarkana, Arkansas, and wanted to sell some water over to Texarkana, Texas, yeah, money, money, money. All it needs is, a 32-inch water line. Let's dig up the farm and send it over. But that's not necessarily the case. And any of the regulations that kind of prevented water from being shifted were all around. Who knows? That is really up in the air right now. So is it resilient? We talked early on about, so we have water, it's usually not disrupted unless there is a natural disaster, climate change, a lot of bad weather, something going on, or there's a big new demand. Most of our cities aren't seeing a big new demand, but Bentonville, where you can't have any more neighborhoods because you know what? Y'all don't have enough water systems built to get it there, right?
Our systems to take it away.
Right. Wastewater's not prepared to handle a new neighborhood. So no permit. Some of you in the West have seen this where they'll say, developer, you're going to pay for the water line to be extended and wastewater to be extended, But you can only build, you know, we'll allow you 100 houses instead of in the past, they might have allowed you 500. So a limited, more limited development. And is it resilient? Yeah.
The buying water.
Yeah.
For just a second, what is the advantage and disadvantage of doing that, bringing it across state line?
Well, the advantage is there are some states that have plenty of water, extra water. I mean, we only have 3 million people in Arkansas.
So what would be the reason?
Dallas wants all our
What
water.
would be the reason not to do it?
Not to do it. Why would you send a natural resource across lines to another state so you can have bigger Dallas? Some of it is, you know, let's keep my water. It's mine. It's our land. Keep it where it belongs. And some of it is the idea that some larger cities, especially as we move west across the United States, are building places that really were never designed to support a city that size. And I'm talking about Phoenix. Dallas has, you know, what, 40 inches of rain. They just need a little more so they can be bigger and everybody can have a nice water yard. I'm sorry. Dallas has no conservation right now. So.
May I tell you something?
Sure.
In this, when I was in Gibraltar, they wanted to desalinate their water and they wanted to buy burnable stuff from Spain so they could desalinate their water. Spain would not sell it.
Yeah, didn't want to sell any trash, so you can turn a turbine, so you could, yeah, you'll see a little bit of that coming up. So I think of this, you know, I'm an engineer, I'm very logical. It's all about this, and does it add up and everything. So I think about strengths and weaknesses of the system, and having worked for a water department. Now, I started my career working for Exxon and Petroleum, because all chemical engineers did at the time. Did some things and moved over, and I worked for the U.S. Green Building Council, which is energy efficient buildings that save at least 20% water. You can't get a certification if you don't. And now, and then I ended my career working as a sustainability director for the local water department. So that's kind of my arc into all things sustainable, but also kind of practical. Does it really work? So the things that I really see on the bottom part of this is the idea that our tap water is good and you can trust it. Many of our immigrant communities come from a location where they don't trust the water coming out of their taps. And so they spend the very precious income that they have buying bottled water because they don't trust it. So this is a messaging. You know, is Houston water good enough to drink? Well, I lived there and I drank it. It's not as good as Little Rock water, but I did drink it when I lived there. And so the idea that tap water is okay and available to you at about $1 a day versus spending, you know, money to buy cases of bottled water. The idea that we have an opportunity with very small changes in our behavior for conservation. I can go without my grass. I mean, really, why am I so invested in green grass at my house? It does nothing for me. It doesn't contribute as a pollinator. You know, I could go and let weeds take over. Okay. But the idea that I could just water my lawn as it really needs it and not on a schedule, and for sure never during the rain, even odd watering, voluntary conservation, and fixing leaks. The average home loses about 10% of their treated water that they have paid for. So it's come through the meter, across their yard, leaked a little in the yard, drips from some faucet in the house that's dripping, some toilets that's running just a little. And if you're at church, every church I go in, you know, I'm looking at the lights. What kind of lights do they have? Have they gone to LED? Do they have them off? Do they have styrofoam cups? And how many toilets are running? So I think about those things. And then the view that wastewater, gray water, water runoff is not of value. We're going to have to change that to a point where we really truly value some of those streams that we haven't thought as much about in the past. We really thought they were a burden to us. And the view that all water is one water, and how can we use reclaimed, recycled water to handle the drinking water needs of America. But if I was doing a global talk, I'd be talking globally. What do we need to do? But the threats are climate change related, and then emerging contaminants. And this is where lead from your galvanized piping, PFAS, which y'all have heard a little bit about in the news. I'll talk about that. Microplastics, which is another reason not to drink from a plastic water bottle, or a huge spike in demand. Either you get so many people moving to your town, or industry is probably the more probable factor, a new data center, which is a water hog, or others, or you have a spike in demand for another reason, being that your water system has so many leaks on their side, not on your side, not at your toilet and your shower, but getting water to you, the 6-inch line water running down through your neighborhood, or the larger line. So what do you think the American Water and Wastewater Association, the AWWA, thinks is an acceptable level for a municipal water system leak? 5%, 10%, 15%. What do you think it is? How many people think that the acceptable level from the industry for water is accepted? 5%. Show of hands. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay. The recommended level is 15% water loss is acceptable. Little Rock runs about 12. The days or the months that we would, we tracked it. The months that we would report 10, we were so proud of ourselves because we found some big leak running down the street, watering some golf course probably. But there are communities in Arkansas that have a 75% water leakage rate. So after they've treated it at the treatment plant and probably pumped it up to a water tower, but before it gets to a meter where they can bill somebody for it, they've lost 75%. That's Helena, Arkansas. Jackson, Mississippi is so excited under federal direction. You know, they had a federal takeover of their system, that Jackson, Mississippi is down to 52% leakage rate. Hallelujah.
Wow.
It's piping, almost all piping, and it's what we call distribution piping. It is the water loss from the treatment plant to a water tower, and then through a 6-inch, 8-inch, 20-inch line to your neighborhood, through the street, because they're all under the street, and then to every house that has a meter, you know, in their yard along. But that's a whole lot of water to spend the chemicals on and the energy on to pump it, and then put it in storage in a water tank, and then try to get it to your house when it's needed the next morning, and to lose that much. There's just, it's so hard.
How often are the companies that are digging lines for like fiber optic?
Yes,
So is
we
that
hate
also
them.
hitting-
If you're a water employee, you know, good grief, do we need another telecom line? Because they dig them up, and even if they come and mark where the lines are, and these are big lines, you know, 6-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch line running down Ferndale Road, they break them all the time.
They use like a certain type of gas as well when they're digging holes underneath roads too.
So what you're seeing there is the wastewater. They're trying to find the wastewater lines. If you leak drinking water, well, it's a loss and it's bad, but it's not harmful health-wise. It kind of destroys your road. You get a lot more potholes. But if you hit that wastewater line, you smell the sewer, but it's an unhealthy situation. Why? Because it's then getting in through some minor leaks at every linkage of water, of drinking water pipe into your drinking water. So we don't want that either. But we have aging infrastructure, a lot of older cities and older piping. We have water contamination concerns. This is Little Rock, Arkansas River. We are under dams and levees and seasonal flow, and we have it flowing outside its natural banks seasonally. We get all the Oklahoma Tulsa water runoff down here every spring. And what you should do, according to FEMA maps, is build golf courses, soccer fields that are, you're allowed to flood those. That's good design. But we're getting so much more rainfall of an intense nature that the river flow and the dam systems can't keep up with it. So this is a map that every one of your local water utilities has. This is the age of the pipe. And so you can see where Little Rock started, right here, right there. The little rock that the French landed on and asked the Indians what the name was. It was the Little Rock, the La Petite Roche. It's right there. So this is the downtown. These are red pipes, 1900s and 1910s, still in the ground. We hadn't replaced those big heavy duty pipes. We like those. You see Little Rock growing west, newer pipes get into yellows and greens out here. But you also have a mixture of pipe types coming through. You have some plastic pipe, which tends to break some. You've got some concrete encased pipe. You have some galvanized pipe, which we're trying to get rid of because it contributes to lead contamination. But you got older pipes still on the ground, and to replace those, because every time you're in a high rise in Little Rock and you want to add another parking lot or add a different building or go down and dig a new elevator shaft, we have a pretty high water table. We have natural springs all over downtown. You're going to hit a 100-year-old line and break it. There's just, they don't know where all the lines are all the time. So you see these old lines being replaced, but no one's capital improvement budget could ever keep up with that, not for 100 years. If you spent as much money as you could, you don't have enough contractors and people to do the work right now. So when people say aging infrastructure, it's not necessarily we don't have the money, but we don't have the engineering design team, we don't have time, and people don't want their street dug up. They don't want their office building water shut off while we replace lines. So you see these things. But leaking water from older pipes also degrades your roads because you've got water leaking under the concrete underneath your hard surface. If you take nothing away, there is no such thing as a flushable wipe. None. Believe me when I say this. This is an actual, you can see it, pipe connection here full of flushable wipes. Every wastewater system in the United States is dealing with this now. Quit flushing your wipes. And then we have a challenge in combined sewer overflow and sanitary overflow. That is when you have so much rain of an intense nature, you concentrate your stormwater, it goes through lines, and it goes through lines typically to flow downstream to a river or a ditch, but it probably gets also in your wastewater system, combined sewer systems that were designed years ago and haven't been replaced. So we talked about the quantity of water, and we're going to move towards talking about the quality of water. So if we needed more water, what would we do? If I'm not in Little Rock, but I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, what do I do? Well, the first thing that every water system is doing is conservation. Take out your zoysia yard and let's go to some natural xeriscape. Take out watering every day so my yard is perfectly green, to go into a little bit green because I'm watering as needed, water meters, gather rainwater. These progressively get more expensive, have more side effects, and are very energy intensive. But you could use gray water on site, and I'm going to show you some examples of that. You could use reclaimed or treated for a specific use water. I'll treat the wastewater or the stormwater enough that it could go into a cooling tower. Not necessarily to drink, but to run an air conditioning cooling tower. We could use desalinization. We're surrounded the United States. We've got salt water all around us. You bring it in, it's very energy intensive to take that in, and you produce a heavy brine that's like going to be what causes the Dead Sea, the Great Lakes. It's so salty and you've got heavy brine, and if you put it back out in the bay at San Diego, what happens? It kills the whole bay again. So you're in a bad circle there. And then we can't rely just on new technology, and you'll see a little bit about this. So gray water is where you're taking water that comes, bathtubs and washing machines is probably the primary recommendation. You get into hand washing, you get some germs, you're a little bit of a health concern, a little bit more than just the water from a bathtub or washing machine, which has a little bit of soap in it. I'd put that in the toilet to flush it. Y'all okay with that? Everybody okay with putting your bathtub water into your toilet? Yeah, that's fine. Might help the ring, right? The ring around the toilet. But the other water could be used maybe for gardening. Depends on if you're doing it just for ornamentals or if you're trying to grow food. A little bit of concern about using water that has been on people's skin. I don't know. COVID, you know, I don't know. But the idea that we have so much water coming out of gray water systems, washing machines, others, that could be used for a new purpose. And then we think about the risk of our water systems, and we've talked about this. So the EPA has this great file, and it's done really good research over the years, and they, for every state, have published what are their main risks to the climate. This is Arkansas. There's Kentucky. I put that over there for all you Louisville people. And it's at an EPA site, which was still working when I made this slide. I have other slides in my presentations that I went to the site, and they aren't working anymore. That's a sad thing for someone like me who likes 10-year history of things. But climate risk for Arkansas, you know, 55 inches rain, 52 to 55, we'll get 3 times tornado activity. So that's how you disrupt the system right there. Very intense rain, but we'll get even more very hot days. So for people working outside, if you're working outside and it's over 95 degrees, the water department, we said at certain degree temperatures outside, you had to stop work or you had to take more frequent breaks. But if we had a day that was going to be over 100 degrees, what'd we do? We told people they had to come back to the main center. We started work out earlier and earlier and earlier. Our cruise shifts would start at 6 a.m. instead of 7 or 8, and they would have to come back at noon. So you got a water problem in the afternoon in Little Rock in August. So, sorry, we can't send workers out to you to be out in that temperature. It's not good for their health. And so the more days you have to think about the employees, the people that work outside, construction mainly. And then we have a much longer irrigation period. You saw my bill. I'm going to start watering my yard now in March because the hot summer is really intensifying and lasting much longer. Yeah.
I'm from Georgia. Are y'all over here today? Okay. We're very worried about AI.
Yeah.
And the data center in Georgia. And I just didn't know if that was hitting.
Yeah.
Arkansas, because it's terrifying.
It is.
The amount of water.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. And you were only one slide ahead. That's good. Yeah.
Well, one areas that there are actually county codes against using gray water.
So you have to change some of those.
Yeah.
So
While forbidding that
yes.
conservation.
When I worked for the U.S. Green Building Council and Heifer International, some of y'all know Heifer, big nonprofit. Their world headquarters is here in town. They built a LEED Platinum building. They collect the water. It's got a huge cistern, and it says, you go in the bathroom, and there's a sign above the toilet. It says, this toilet is fed by untreated water. Don't drink out of the toilet. But it took a year and a half, because I helped on this project, to get the state Department of Health to give them a permit to do that. Even though it had been used in New York for 10 years, California, coastal for a while, proven technology. they said, okay, we're going to let you do it. You can pipe it with the purple pipe and do all these things that show that it's different water. And you have to put up a sign so people don't drink out of the toilet. Anyway, y'all go visit him. They do a lot of very good things there. But data centers, so in Little Rock, our average usage for 500,000 people, we're a regional water supplier. For drinking water supply, 60 million gallons a day. Keep that number 60 million gallons a day. In the summer, when Linda and everybody else starts watering their yard, 100 million gallons a day. That's also golf courses and washing your car and stuff. But 100 million gallons from 60. So we can handle that. We have capacity for that. If you bring in a data center, and there's 2 that are permitted right now that are in the process of being built here in Little Rock, our friends, Google, are building one of them at the port. And how much water does Google want to use? So we're typically using 60 million. That supplies all residents, all industry, all hospitals, all schools, everybody that's connected to Central Arkansas Water, 60 million. How much does a data center want? They want to add 5 million gallons a day. Now, I do believe that over time their recycling and their air-cooled technology to cool the building and their equipment will be better, but that's not to cool people, really. That's really to just cool machines. They want to add 5. So Central Arkansas Water, yeah, we take that. We'll sell you that. And that's good. But Helena, Arkansas has 75% water leakage rate. And just up the road, our friends, Google, are building another one. It's about 10 times the size of what they're going to build in Little Rock. It's going to cost almost $2 billion just outside Memphis, right on the on the Mississippi River. And how much do they want? They want about between 10 and 15 million gallons a day. And that's a water system. That's just for Google that right now, first they have 75% water leaks. You know, and the total demand out of the system that they're asking to supply them is less than 5 million gallons. So they're going to take more than the capacity of the city. And so rural areas that have typically in the South, typically have low cost energy, have some big source of water, and have people in counties that are losing population. So they want and welcome an industry, no matter what the cost. They say, yeah, come on, and you can help us rebuild the water plant. Well, that's good. I think Google should do that, and I think that will be a natural extension. But what happens is they start pumping the wells and all of your aquifer over there, because they're not pulling it from the Mississippi River. You're pulling it from underground to the aquifers where we're irrigating all our cotton and soybean crops. So I have a concern over data centers. I have a concern over the concentration and siting location of data centers. I do think that it's a technology that most of us want. I mean, I want to put up Google, and I just got back from Scotland. I wanted it to tell me which road to take, what restaurant to stay in. I like Google. I want those answers on my phone right now. If it even takes more than, it's so slow today. But AI takes about 10 times as much energy and water to do a AI analysis to tell me the best restaurant versus just a Google search. Because AI is comparing so many more databases and reviews and local reviews, international reviews. So today, what you're going to get, especially as we move forward here from this point in the presentation, is water science according to Linda and not Google or AI. Because I'm going to tell you that when I answer things, it's education and experience based, and I've compared many ideas to come up with some real practical solutions that I think y'all will say, oh yeah, that makes sense, that's just common sense, why aren't we doing that? So I'm a little concerned about data center siting. I think the technology on recycling, using reclaimed water, using raw water, which is like river water, will be fine. It'd be bad for the fish, it'd be better for the future of the aquifer, but that's where we are. Yeah.
What do the data centers use with the water they're using for? Once it's hot?
Once it's hot, then they are able to discharge back to a local stream or the Mississippi River, like Nuclear One, which I'm very familiar with, a nuclear plant that supplies about 40% of energy in Arkansas right now. Been there a long time. 2 cooling towers. If you came from Bentonville down this way, y'all saw that. They're allowed to discharge back into the Dardanelle Reservoir, which flows to the Arkansas River, at 5 degrees above the typical water temperature there. And so 5 degrees doesn't seem to kill too many fish. Now they've had some violations over time where they sent some pretty hot water back, but they're actually chilling the water before they send it back into the environment. But if you are in a Trump regulatory environment, who knows what the new rule might be, or if there would be a rule. Yeah.
One thing we're running into in some areas is when data centers come in and they're using a huge amount of electricity,
Yes.
it causes an increase in the production costs, the amount of importing and so forth. And so what it ends up doing is cost of electricity to other consumers.
Yes.
And that's passed along to others. Same thing happened in water systems.
Not as much because water's relatively cheap, $31 a month. So if it goes to 40, has that really hurt you any? You and I can handle it, but not every person is going to be able to afford that. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit. Tech's not going to be enough. In Arkansas, agriculture is going to have to do these things. I have a farm in East Arkansas. We raise cotton, soybeans, and some corn, not for human corn, but farm corn to feed animals. We used to just water, when Joe and Sam agreed that it was day to water, like, what do you think? You think it's going to rain tomorrow? We're much more sophisticated than that. We're sensing the water moisture in, and that's what's going to happen in Arkansas is you're going to have to go from spraying a lot of water that gets evaporated when it's 100 degrees to drip water systems, to water moisture sensing and know when to water. I want to show you a few of these things. I went on vacation to Key West. I love Key West. And in my Airbnb, I had this hand washing on top of the toilet. I love this idea. Flush the toilet, reach up there, wash my hands, and that water runs down and it's ready for the next flush. Love this idea. I think we'll see that in our homes in years to come. Purple pipe, y'all know, who knows purple pipe? Some of the communities in water restricted areas are pumping water of a quality that is not potable water, not to the US drinking water standards, but is designed to be piped directly to uses in a building that are not drinking water required. This would be mostly be cooling towers, could be flushing. But you actually color the pipe, you paint your pipes purple so that the plumber knows what that is coming into the building. And you buy it from your city this way to get it pumped to your building at a cheaper price than drinking water, you hope. This next one I love because I'm from the Huban South. This is a water box. It's got a beautiful trade name, but I'm going to call it the water box because I can't think. This is in Israel, and if you live in the South, you see a little bit of this. You got a little pipe out of the side of your house, and when you're running air conditioner a lot, you get condensate drip. This box uses a lot of energy, but is stripping water out of humid air and creating essentially distilled drinking water. If you can connect this to solar and batteries, this is a good thing, but it's very energy intensive to run a dehumidifier enough to strip humidity out there. Covering water canals with solar helps with evaporation. It helps with the quality of water. You're not growing as much algae. Everybody needs a rain barrel. How many of you have a smart water meter? Many of you have a smart electric meter, but smart water meter where it tells you how much water you're using. You don't have to wait till the end of the month. Pretty exact. You can see a leak when it's happening. I think everybody will have this in 20 years. you'll see more of these little filters on faucets. This is the concern over PFAS, lead contamination, microplastics. I think there'll be a point where we will all say, yeah, I want to drink my water, and I think it's of pretty good quality, but just to be sure, I'm going to add on a little filter at my home faucet. I think all our kids will be doing that. Our grandchildren will do that. And then floating solar is something that I've worked on quite a bit because it's very hard to pump water. It's very energy intensive. Paid a $300,000 a month electric bill to pump the water out of the lake to get it to town to be treated. And if you can float your solar right at the source where you're paying for your big pumps and motors to run near a reservoir, for those of you using surface water. So at home, these are things I've talked about, so many of them. Y'all need to replace your old toilets. You need to use native plants which have deeper roots. Nobody needs a zoysia yard anymore. And HVAC for the season, I think probably all of you have been officers in your church. You need to run the air conditioner in the summer so people don't need a coat in church, and they don't need to be shedding clothes in the winter because it's so hot. You need to have appropriate seasonal air conditioning in your worship spaces. But then locally, things you can do. We talked about conservation, looking for water, adjusting our own water use. You can support when the water department says, I need to go up because we need to replace some pipes. We need to have this. If you want to have water come into your house, you're going to need to pay for it. Get on a water board. Most city water boards that I deal with, and I talk to everybody in the South and a lot in the United States, oh, if we just had someone who cared about water, who would get on our water board. Please be a good citizen, do that. And Fix a Leak Week, similar to weatherization and other programs where you go to low-income homes, and if you can turn a crescent wrench, you can help keep a faucet from dripping. You know, I can go buy you a pack of seals, and y'all can be in there. You're saving people water who really need it. Many cities in the South have a constitutional prohibition from customer assistance program. Arkansas does, Georgia does, North Carolina mostly does. And that's a leftover from after the Civil War and during Reconstruction, saying you can't take ratepayer funds, even if it's voluntary. If I wanted on my bill to check a mark and say, add $1 and help some person with their water bill, it is prohibited by law in Arkansas to do that. So no customer assistance program. What we are starting to see is water utilities using other revenue, like, you know, they own all the high points because they own all the water towers, and so they can sell that for cell tower rent. So all the cell tower people want to put an antenna up on, and so there's some rental income there, and you could run a customer assistance program. That's what Atlanta's doing. And others like Mississippi are starting to look at this. They have a constitutional prohibition, but they're looking at a special program, and I think their legislature may pass. If you're on SNAP or some other identified program, we'll give you, instead of a $30 a month, a $10 a month low income rate for a guaranteed amount of water. Not all the water. You can't, you know, turn on the faucet and let it water your yard, but you'll have enough to wash your hands and take care of your health. And then if you have a pastoral care, most people that get their water shut off owe between $300 and $400. By the time 90 days, water department's going to go shut your water off because you hadn't paid the bill for 3 months because it was $100 like me. And then they've built up penalties and fees and just to get it turned back on. So they need help, and there's not a federal help like there is LIHEAP for electrical and some.
Ma'am,
Yes.
our city water department just started a new program where if you're slated to be shut off because you owe a lot, not paying it, they have a program where you can work off some of that through community service to get your water, to avoid being shut off from water. It's kind of an interesting.
I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. The typical people, because I worked on this during COVID when we voluntarily suspended cutoffs.
Yeah.
We wouldn't cut you off during COVID for water. So some people took advantage, but we learned a lot. And the average person who was behind on their bill or due for a cutoff was an aging single person of color, an 80-year-old Black woman. I'm sorry to say, that's who's getting their water cut off. And they probably have some grandkids living there, and shutting off whoever's listed on the water bill is hurting a lot of people. So I really hope that that's a big change. That's a state level change and a federal government change to have water for low income people, which we all think of as just everybody gets water, but that's not true. So this is me during COVID. I was an essential worker. I went to work every day during COVID. They were going to put me in the lab running tests because you know why? I have a chemical engineering background and everybody else was out sick with COVID. And so Linda's going to run in the lab. That was awful. But what I wanted to do every day during COVID was make sure people could wash their hands. Yeah. And because at the beginning of COVID, y'all remember, we didn't know. And it was like, I think that, a pandemic is something that will startle us when it happens again because we have such short memories. But I really do believe water is essential, water is life, and that we can do some very practical things to save water, fix some leaks, and to supply water to those that need it. I'm going to take questions. We are over time, but y'all ask them. I'm here. Yes.
Yeah, we live in an area where there's a lot of bureaucracy, as well as tribal governments, so those water issues are really hitting us in the face. On our farm, we don't have well, we capture everything from the rooftops. Usually when we hire a new staff, what's the highest point of the farm? Usually it's the roof, So
Yeah.
we capture a lot of the water, and because of that, we've been able to decode the distances of drip lines, how to keep water in the soil, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow, using biochar, using different sinks in the soil remediation. We get about, 10% each year there in the Southwest. And so, you know what, water's commoditized, and in that commoditization of that water, we don't hold water safe.
No, we don't.
Yeah, and everybody thinks, flushing the toilet, that's a lot more gallons than what you see there. Want to purify it and clean
Yes.
it and all that. But I think it's out west, there's places like Clovis and Portales, which is on the east side of New Mexico. Along that area, they're no longer using it for agriculture. Whole cities are now becoming ghost towns because there's no water. Gallup, for example, the problem that they're having is they're getting the water from the San Juan River and the Colorado, but the problem is the pH in those galvanized pipes. That's dissolving the minerals in there and contaminating the water once it gets into it. That's the same thing that happened with Phoenix and Tucson.
Right.
Getting Colorado.
Yes. And I think those, especially in the West, the whole idea of collecting water, which was done for thousands of years by the people that lived there and used the water because it was so precious to them. It's just a different mindset when you say, I can turn the tap on. What do we tell our kids? Don't let the water run. It's a very much a different mindset to think about how precious water is as opposed to wasting the water we have. Yeah. Okay. Y'all can call me, ask me questions, whatever you want, follow up, ask me for the presentation. I'll send it to the organizers and they'll have it. You didn't see it all, but in the notes that will come with it at the bottom of every slide, because I believe in science and sourcing, you'll see all the sources listed where I get my data. Yeah.
Do you have access to that? I'm on the advocacy of water in New Mexico, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I will send this on. And like I say, like for this climate risk, I just put Arkansas and Kentucky. There's one of these for every state. You just have to go to the site And we'll share that with you. Okay, thank you. Most of you heard me say I'm on the board here at Ferncliff. What a beautiful, precious state, land we have. We have 400 acres here, not just conferences, youth, children's summer camp, day school. My son teaches in the nature preschool. No matter the weather, they're outside. If it's raining, you wear your rain gear. Anyway, we have Presbyterian disaster relief on site too, where you can pack kits, and we send those out with teams. So thank you for coming and being with us here in Arkansas and at Ferncliff. Hey, where are you off to now? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Water saving technique for toilets.
What's that?
If it's yellow, let it mellow.
Oh, yeah, I use that. They teach that at summer camp here.